the Boy, Girl, Mom, and Dad podcast. I'm Lauren,
And I'm Nick.
and this is episode 39. Hey, toddler parents, how y'all doing?
Surviving.
Thriving? You know, maybe all of the above.
Boy, girl, mom and dad here for the good times and the bad. Gender norms and stereotypes to making sure that the butts are wet. Boy, girl, mom and dad want grown-up time, you're going mad. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.
Really, this episode is kind of a riff. We're recording it the day before it goes live, which is not what we normally do for multiple reasons. But we're also recording it on location in Texas. You can see we're in a different area. This is where the twins play most of the time when they come to see my parents, which is where we are right now in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, yeehaw.
Yeehaw. But this episode is basically just to check in and make sure that you, as a toddler parent or person in general, know you're not alone, because here at Boy, Girl, Mom, and Dad, you're not alone unless you want to be. We have kind of a lot, but also not a lot to say today. But like we do every week before we get into it, we have a Tiff. We didn't have a Tiff for the last 2 weeks because we did a 2-part series with our friends Kayla and Cami on your children and their bodies, on body safety and body image. It's a great talk. Go and listen to it. But we were so in it, we decided to, in the moment, cut the Tiff because we just didn't feel like it fit the vibe of that episode or those episodes 37 and 38. So we're going to have a Tiff today. And this one is a little bit different because most of the times I pit Nick and I against each other. This one's on garlic. And before I get into it, I just have to say, like, these are fun, light. So I'm not talking about, food waste and maybe the best way you can put food on your table. That's not it. It's just a preference. So garlic, I don't know that I would ever be able to buy like the jarred pre-minced garlic because I prefer fresh from the source, and I get it. And the reason why I said this isn't about food waste, because obviously sometimes our garlic pods go bad or they have like the green stems growing from them, which mean they're going sour. But I just prefer fresh. And I think you do too, not to put words in your mouth, but like if I had the opportunity to buy fresh and could do it, why would I not do that and buy it from a jar? You know?
I agree.
I know you do.
I agree. But I agree with that with most ingredients.
True.
What made you think of this?
I don't know. I think I maybe just saw someone cooking like on a recipe on Instagram and they reached for a jar from their fridge of minced garlic. And I was like, what are you doing?
I come from a minced garlic family.
From a fridged garlic family? Or, yeah, I don't have any like
You don't have
strong
to defend yourself.
feelings.
I'm not saying it like they're gonna be mad at you. I'm just saying I remember having that jar in the fridge. Grandma still has that jar in the fridge.
Yeah, it can be sentimental. And I think that's like I'm like you of like, I want to buy ingredients that I can just freshly prepare right then. But my mom always uses, not always, in several of her like main recipes that were repeated a lot in our childhood have the dehydrated onions. And it's because her parents grew up in the Depression and that's what they used. And so those I like using specifically in certain, recipes. And then I also just will eat them straight from the jar because I think that they're good.
Yeah.
But they're nostalgic for me. So that's why
Yeah.
I had a caveat in there for me personally. And if minced garlic in a jar in the fridge is nostalgic for you, go for it.
Yeah. I think what's funny is that you've presented people liking fresh ingredients as a hot take. Like the reason that, I mean, everybody does. The reason that people get the big jars of garlic and stuff is for convenience, not because they
Yeah.
think it tastes better. For the most part, there's probably somebody who thinks it tastes better, but yeah. So yeah, this is probably the most pro your argument anybody on the audience has ever been. You probably captured most of the audience with this one.
Maybe. I think like we have friends who use the garlic from the jar. And to your point,
Yes.
it is very convenient. I think I just like it straight from the source. And I think I'm maybe wrong in the sense of, well, not wrong. I'm not going to say that fresh garlic is better for you, but I will say that fresh garlic doesn't have all the added ingredients that you get when you get garlic from a jar. When you're putting garlic in the jar, it's no longer just garlic, and I prefer to have less ingredients. And so that's why I think also just watching what goes in my body and having an autoimmune disease, or healing, should I say healing from an autoimmune disease, I try to put minimal ingredients and use only what I crave. If I crave like a
Garlic.
not garlic, but a manufactured product versus straight from the source. So yeah.
Good one.
Yeah, maybe maybe fight more. Anyway,
No, we're not going to do another one of those until it's my turn to choose, because we're heavily outbalanced right now with you picking the topic.
okay. All right, you can have the next one, maybe.
Well,
I don't
mark
know.
it here.
So whenever I first wrote this down as an episode topic, I titled it "No, We're Not Sleeping Through the Night. Thanks for asking." And I had written it shortly after the toddlers, the twins had turned 2. They turned 2 in October of 2023. It's currently April 2024. So actually they turned 2.5 this week. So it feels wild to me that it's been 6 months since they turned 2, but also I can 100% believe it because we are probably the most exhausted we have ever been, and that includes the newborn phase.
It's crazy to me that it's been 2.5 years, let alone 6 months.
Do you agree or disagree with what I said? Is it
Agree.
crazy or right? Agree? Yeah. So I think
I didn't know you asked me a question. Yes, I agree with you.
I don't know that I asked it, but I kind of paused and waited for your response in the
Yes.
sense of, like I said, that it has been crazier than the newborn phase, in my opinion.
Agreed.
I was texting with Natalie Diaz, the founder of Twiniversity, a couple months ago, and she was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I was like, "Honestly, not well." Why did no one prepare me for the twos? I mean, I know they call them like the terrible twos and whatnot, but everything I see is like, oh, you survived twins the first year, or you survived your first year of twindom, or even you survived the newborn phase of twins. But honestly, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 2-year-old twins are harder than newborn twins.
Was that another question?
Are you on the limb with me or not?
Sorry. I know you paused. It's my turn to talk. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Yes, I agree with you. I also wonder if parents are just like dangling carrots a little bit for the people behind them. And they're like, wait till you get to 4. Wait till you get to 6. Wait till you get to 10. It's going to be way easier when you get to 12 and 14. Wait till you get to 18. It's like,
Yeah, and we don't want to be in this like wait till phase of like, you just wait and see.
is that the voice of every parent who has older kids than us?
Back in my day. But Natalie was like, "Oh, we leave that one as a surprise for you. We don't talk about that one." I'm like, "Okay." Or maybe honestly, you're just too busy to talk about it, which I completely understand.
Yeah.
In preparation for this episode, I asked y'all on Instagram, I said, what's your favorite part of toddlerhood? What's your least favorite part? Just to kind of get a gauge of like where everybody else was compared to us. And first of all, some of y'all be lying. And not lying, but they only said their favorite parts, which is nice. But I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because there are not favorite parts, and that's okay. You're allowed to have not favorite parts and not fun parts, and you're not a bad parent for that. So a lot of things, though, that people did say were the dichotomy that I think that we feel. Like it's the best of times and it's the worst of times, or it's incredible and overwhelming. And how we've kind of talked about before, like it can be more than one thing at once and still be those things, even though they're different. I think that's how we feel. Our nanny said this is her favorite time for kids because their personalities will never be so pure again. Like they're completely unfiltered for the most part. And they're just like being 100% themselves. They haven't been really affected by society telling them to be one thing or another, or, other kids telling them to be one thing or another. So it is a really cool time, but it's also really hard.
The way I describe it is either joyful chaos or beautiful chaos.
Yeah.
So I agree. They're super cute. They can express themselves. They can, like, they're using so many more words and expressions now. They still have like a ton of hope. Man, that sounded dark. They still have a ton of hope. I mean, you know what I mean? They have innocence, and they're communicating the joy they're experiencing and discovering new life and new toys and new things. And, your dad taught them what a fulcrum was the other day and how to pry a nail out of their toy playset. It's like, it's so funny to see them like discover things. I mean, Olive's expression right now, when you say, I have something for you, or I have a gift for you, or I have like, it's just like, it's just the most pure joy. Yeah. I mean, Cypress has that too, but that's like the last 2 days. He's describing everything like he's a speech writer. It's pretty impressive. So yeah, it is a chaotic, very difficult and beautiful and joyful time.
Yeah. We actually just got back from a trip that we took, not because we have twin toddlers, but it was a getaway that we basically had not had a reprieve in the last 6 months. They turned 2 and I feel like everything changed. They tell you have this system going, and once the system is great, get ready for it to change. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So we went from, basically throwing them in their rooms at 6:15, 6:30, peace out. They go to sleep by themselves, and then they'll wake up around 6 a.m. But now it's just not that easy at all. So we literally have no alone time per se, even just like alone time with our own thoughts. So now, they're up around 6, maybe earlier, and they come into our bed. We probably have someone in our bed by 4:30, and we're not co-sleepers, but honestly, we're tired. And so they just will climb into our bed, and sometimes they'll fall back asleep with us. And that's just how we're able to get our sleep. And then, at nighttime, it's now taking an hour, maybe 2, because we have to stay with them in their room until they fall asleep. And it's exhausting. So where we don't come out of their bedroom till probably like 8:30 or 9. So we have like 9 o'clock until maybe 4:30 by ourselves. I don't know. We used to have this.
Including sleep.
Correct, including sleep. So it's been a lot for us. Oh, and nap time is the same song and dance as bedtime, essentially, where we'll take, on a good day, I can get them down in 30 minutes, but sometimes it's an hour or more than that to get them to go to sleep. And before, again, I just put them in and they slept for at least an hour and a half in the last year. So our whole world has been upside down, but Nick was really sweet and planned a little getaway trip for us. And we went to New York and we got to have fun and sleep in our own bed. And yeah.
Would you encourage people to do that even though it was not the relaxing weekend you were expecting?
He says that because we originally just coming to Dallas and we were going to like drive somewhere like Austin or something, Fort Worth, and just like go to a resort or something and relax. And then he took me to New York, which was really fun, but we probably got 6 or 7 hours of sleep. They were uninterrupted, so that was good. But we walked a lot during the day, so it wasn't necessarily relaxing of what like my mindset was going to be. I think it's important to have fun. I think we would both say we're really tired today. So I don't know. I think you have to read the room. I don't regret going on the trip. Am I saying all the wrong things?
No. I'm not God. I can't tell you whether you're right or wrong. I think that you are not honestly answering me because you're worried about how I will feel. I don't think you answered the question. Would you recommend taking a like just us trip like we just did, or do something more relaxing that's still just us but gets you the sleep and rest that you're talking about we don't have right now?
I don't think either one of them is wrong. I'm not purposely trying to like not answer the question, but I don't think what was wrong what we did. It was hard for me to come to it just because it's not what I'd been mentally preparing for since we booked the trip. So it was a little bit of a mental adjustment, and I was looking forward to, staying in the same time zone and probably sleeping and things like that.
But you had fun.
Yeah, I had fun.
I think the piece of advice is take time, whether it's relaxing time or time where you don't have to pick up a toy as a specific parent in a specific way at a specific speed so that somebody doesn't get upset, which is the life that you settle into as a toddler parent.
Yeah.
And there is a part of me that would have enjoyed more of a relaxing trip as well. I don't take offense to hearing that, even though I planned it. By the way, it's really hard to plan a surprise for Lauren. So for all those of you with type A wives with perfect memories, I feel you. But it's possible. Keep trying. But yeah.
What's actually funny that I don't know if we want to talk about, maybe it wasn't funny then, but the day before you told me we got in a fight.
The day before I told you about your surprise trip.
Yeah.
The reason I'm confused about that is because I did not tell you. Cypress and Olive clearly told you. They walked up to you holding your printed out itinerary that I may or may not have printed out and planned. But they walked up to you holding the itinerary, and the other twin was holding a pair of heels that I assumed you would use in New York. So, but anyway.
Okay, the day before the twins told me what you had been doing, we got in a fight.
Yes. And what was that fight about?
The fight was about how I didn't know why you hadn't planned any dates for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd been asking for it, and I felt like I had been planning all the dates.
Mm-hmm. Which was mostly true. I think one of the things, hopefully, that you understood that I communicated in a few of those fights, which there were a few of them leading up to that week, was that one of the things that was falling through the cracks because of how busy of a season we are in for me is planning date nights for you, which shouldn't all be on me, but the parts that were on me, or the half that's on me, I guess, I had admittedly had been falling through on, which is one of the reasons I was trying to plan this trip for you, which predated the fights we had. But yeah, I mean, it's an easy thing to forget to do, not because you don't care about your partner, as hard as that is to convince them of when you're not planning dates. I'm not shooting shots at you. It was hard to convince you because you're evidence in action proves the way that you feel type person. So you were communicating to me that you didn't feel prioritized because that was falling through the cracks for me. And I completely understand that. It wasn't my truth, right? Because, my priority of you at the top of our list of the family and everything, like, that hadn't changed. But I was the same way. I'm not able to go work out as much as I want to go hang out with my friends as much as I want to go, play video games as much as I used to. Like, all of those things aren't happening right now. And that unfortunately included planning dates for you. So it wasn't, I think what you heard is, I don't care about you. And what I was doing was drowning the same way you are, but for you, different things fall through the cracks.
Yeah, and I think we drown differently. I think that I'm like letting it all out at that point, and you kind of internally drown. I can tell when
Yeah.
you're stressed, but I think you internally drown. And so, like, it was news to me that, not news to me, but kind of news to me that you were feeling like how you were then expressing during our fight that you were feeling. And I think
Yeah.
I needed to see that you felt the same way to fully understand, as weird as that may sound.
Doesn't sound weird. I think that's an accurate assessment. I mean, the reason I don't know, I would just not describe it as holding it in, because, like, to me, it wasn't a secret. Like, you hold things in that are secrets. Like, to me, you and I are fighting the same battle equally as parents, right? And we do support each other very, very well. So, like, at least I feel like we do. You looked off in the distance. Maybe I misjudged.
No.
Okay. We do support each other very well with respect to parenting. So, like, to me, my assumption was that you were drowning as much as I was, and that you understood and expected that I was drowning as much as you were. And that wasn't the case, because I think you're expecting that if I am drowning as much as you are, that I am expressing it in the same way that you typically express it. And that's just not my style. But it's not, does that make sense? It's not hiding it. Like, to me, obviously I'm in the same deep water as you are. If you didn't feel like I was, that to me says you don't think I'm an equal parent.
No, you are just almost an internally happy person, and not a lot stresses you out. It takes a lot to stress you out. It takes a lot to make you mad, I would say. And so I hadn't seen you exhibiting the same symptoms. I thought we were busy, but I thought you felt less stressed than I did, not that you were less stressed than I was.
That makes sense.
And so I didn't really understand until you told me how, like, you expressed it. And so I needed to, like, hear it to know. But one thing how I describe to people right now, the season that we're in, is that we are operating at what's on fire right now, which is completely opposite from how I operate as a person for the most of my life. But that's kind of like how it is. And I don't necessarily like it, but it's just how we are in this season.
For the parents out there, hurry, drive the fire truck.
Yeah. Back to the dates, I think also I didn't understand because, like, I secured the babies. It's not necessarily easy for us to plan a date right now. We have to secure the babysitter, find a reservation or find something to do per se. And it just has a lot of steps. So I didn't understand why you couldn't just like, okay, I'm going to set a 15-minute timer and this is what I'm going to work on right now. I'm going to look on dates that are possible, sending those to our nanny or to our friends to see if they can watch and going from there. And I didn't understand. I was like, well, I'm finding a way to do it. Why can't you find a way to do it? Which also isn't necessarily fair, but I felt like that was me prioritizing us. So our OB, well, I say our because I know you love her and she was a doctor to me, is a doctor to me and our babies. But my lovely OB was like, just have a night each week where that's your date night. And I think that that's realistic for some people, but not really for us at this time, just because we share our nanny with 2 other families, like not as in a nanny share, but she has 2 other clients. And so some of them have her for nights already. And then she wants like a 3-hour minimum, which is fine. We can do that in some nights, but it's not an every week thing for us. And so we are being better and more proactive about getting her on the calendar, but we're not by my parents. Just be like, hey, can we have every Thursday night or something like that? So if that works for you, great. But I would probably say try to do like once a month from there. But she had suggested that, my point is, she had suggested that just to try to maintain a relationship and have that adult time, like conversations together.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get to that. I just don't know how, to your point. Yeah.
Totally. But enough about maybe what you didn't do in my eyes, but something you did do that I actually just shared for the first time on Instagram this week that people are like, what? That's an amazing idea, is for Christmas. You gifted me Self-Care Saturday. And so you basically gave me, I think it was a paper or something that said Self-Care Saturday, explaining it and saying like for the first Saturday of every month, I could go have a self-care day and you would watch the twins. And so you gifted it to me with a couple gift cards to start me out, just like as an idea. So like there's a gift card to a nail salon, a gift card to Face Gym, which is like lymphatic drainage, and then into the massage place I go to, just as some ideas. I've also done like a Korean hair spa. I'm trying to think what else I've done during that. Oh, we have like a sauna studio, pause studios. So I'll go and do the sauna or hot cold therapy or cryotherapy, and they have a full LED bed. That's amazing. Anyway, he gifted me this to make sure I take the time, because something that has been hard for me is just finding the time to take it for myself. And so, like with working out, I've gotten in a pattern where I am taking that time for myself. But other than that, it's hard for me to do it, and this is just scheduled. So there are a couple of rules you gave me that were like, it doesn't have to be the first Saturday, but it does need to be taken. So if you need to move
Once
it,
a
or we have
month,
some,
as you
once a
can.
month. You said I can veto it. Like, one day we had like my book launch or something like that. And so again, we moved it and I celebrated it another day or something like that.
Yeah, it's not forced to be that day.
Yeah. I can do whatever I want, but it's encouragement like not to work during that time. I think
I called it a requirement, but with you, I can't really make that a requirement because you have so much stuff you do and you find joy in finishing your work,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful thing that not a lot of people do. So that doesn't make sense to me, but maybe that says something else about me. But yeah, it's encouraged that you are taking time away from the things that are adding stress to you.
Yeah, and like I can choose to be with Nick and be with the twins, but it's again up to me. So yeah, how did you think about that? How did you
Well,
think of
you're
that?
also not the primary caretaker in those instances. Not to say you always are on the weekend, but on the weekends we're typically tag teaming.
Correct.
Where
Yeah.
we're both taking care of them. We're both typically in the room, normally. Like we're not requiring that, but just like if you choose to be around us, that's great. But if you're going to use it as your self-care Saturday, I'm the one that's doing the things
Yeah.
with them to take care of them, and you're doing things that are going to lean stress away from you.
Yeah, and to kind of like give a glimpse into our week. During the week, on a typical week, a normal week, we have a nanny 3 days, and she's 3 hours, so she's just 9 hours a week. Nick helps me in the morning unless he has some kind of meeting, but generally it's just like me and them. I would say after she leaves, I put them down. They take maybe an hour-ish nap, maybe a 2-hour nap if I'm lucky, and then we hang till dinner time. But you typically help me in the morning, so that's kind of like what our days look like. So it's just a lot of kid time, and if I don't have a nanny and if they don't nap that day, it can be stressful. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So to summarize, before I answer your question, because we'll probably need a clip of this, right? To summarize Self-Care Saturday, it's the first Saturday of every month, which this doesn't have to be that way, but first Saturday of every month, you go do what you want to do that brings you relaxation. That's the headline. It's flexible, but the assumption is that your partner, me, is taking care of the children, house, the pets, and everything that day. And of course, this doesn't mean this is the only day that I am doing that, but this is just like one that is set aside of one of the 4 weekends of every month that you go do what you want to do. The way I kicked it off was the massage parlor that you like, the face massage and treatment place that you like, and the nail salon that you like. I got gift cards to kind of force you to go to those places as a kickstart. But it's not recurring gift cards. It's not memberships, right? It's go do what you want to do to get out of the house and go relax. Mm-hmm. That's Self-Care Saturday. I thought of it because I was thinking like, I don't want to be gift card guy, and I'm typically not gift card guy for you. And like, you are such an intentional gift giver. It's very difficult to give you gifts, but I knew that like these places that were behind the gift cards were places that you wanted to go to and were struggling to find time to go to. And then I also knew like it was because you were feeling this weight and pressure of always having to take care of the babies, whether I'm helping you or not. So in my head, it was like, it wasn't about the gift cards and the money for the places. It was like, okay, how do I connect those things and have them result in stress relief? So not just you get to go to the places you haven't been able to go, but it's adding some extra joyful benefit to your life. So that's kind of, I thought of it. It came together and I was like, this is a way to do it. So, and I don't think this is a good thing to do only if your spouse is your primary caretaker of your kids. You know, I think like forcing each other to get out and go do stuff for them is a good thing. And I do say force on purpose because like sometimes you do have to force, you know, like even though I was planning this trip for you, I already knew, I mean, one of the reasons I was doing it is because I knew that I was not being a good partner to you and planning dates and stuff that I needed to, regardless of how stressful it was to do that. So like it was helpful to me to have those fights leading up to us taking the trip because I saw your reaction when I gave you the itinerary. I know you felt guilty and bad about it, but like the fights, they needed to happen. And me understanding the point at which you had mentally got out because of me not prioritizing those things, that was still helpful for me. So it's not like, and of course I wasn't planning a trip to do some big thing. So, you know, the lack of me planning dates for you was invalid. Like that's not what was happening. It was more, I wanted to do something bigger because I couldn't have been able to do the other things. But yeah, I lost my thread a bit. Yeah, but what I'm saying is like you communicating, hey, this is super important to me, was helpful for me to understand. So like I needed to force you to get out and take care of yourself a little bit. You weren't doing that. And I'm not saying it's your fault, but like you weren't doing that. It was something that was adding extra stress and weight to your life and you weren't doing it. So this to me, pictured as a sweet gift, which it's intended to be, is also like, you have this time, you know, you have this time now, go use the time. And the rules are there not to box you in, but to make sure that you take the time, you know? So, I guess what I'm connecting in that and your communication about my dates is like, sometimes you have to nudge your partner a little bit strongly to get them to go do the things you know they want to do. And my hope for you in the conversation about the dates is that you knew at the end of those fights and know now that that is something that was important to me, regardless of whether I was able to take action on it up to that point or not.
Yeah.
You cried in the middle of getting the itinerary because of the fights, right?
Yeah, I felt bad.
I noticed.
I felt bad. Well, and
that's why right after I made sure you knew that I had been planning it before. This was not a knee-jerk giant reaction and spend a ton of money because we had fights at all.
Yeah, and I didn't think so because I was like, I know you could do it quickly, but you couldn't have worked on this overnight. So like I knew it wasn't that at all. I think though, to your point, like I don't really like fights. I don't like confrontation, but it's kind of how things grow. And like it did come out, like I told you, I was starting to resent you based on like me communicating for however long, like, hey, I would really appreciate this. I'd really appreciate this. I feel like I'm doing this for you and I don't feel like I'm getting it in return. And I
Right.
think something becoming parents, specifically now around toddlers, I said like I felt like we were a good team and we're teammates, but we were just roommates and we weren't, connecting because we didn't have like the time at the end of the day like to connect, even over a meal, which we love to do. It was just like all like go, go, go and barely getting any rest. So
That's a
like,
big difference, honestly, between the baby and the toddler stage. Like you mentioned the time that we don't have to ourselves, but it's also, to your point, like we had mornings together for the most part. We had evenings together for the most part, whether it was just sitting and watching shows or cooking or ordering something we wanted to and being able to eat it while it's hot. Like those, we probably didn't have like a lot more dates back then compared to now. We had some more because we had the time to plan and do them, but like it was kind of a double whammy. Like it was less dates than we were used to and basically no time together aside from like when we're both conking out next to each other in bed.
yeah, it was just a lack of connection. So yeah, was important to me and to us, like to basically not rekindle because I don't think the fire was out, but make sure that it stays kindled, I guess.
Something that I do like at work that I think negatively impacts my perception in this argument is that like I'm forced to see things super, super objectively and manage the people in their work with like fixed finite capacity, So like, um, if I have somebody who is expected to give me 40 hours a week of billable time on a project, as a good manager of that engagement, I should be giving them just under that amount of work and helping them, enabling them with tools to get that stuff done. But if they don't get it done in time, my training says that I should address what they're not getting and see if I'm expecting too much from them, if I'm laying more than 40 hours of work based on the way that they're able to complete or how fast they're able to complete, if there's something in their way they're not communicating. So like basically the very last thing we ever assume is that the person is intentionally not getting their work done. So that is the same standard that I hold myself to. Like if I know I can't get to something, I assume that everybody looks at it that objectively and they don't blame me for not getting that thing done. And I think you and I are different in that. Not saying that it's right or wrong, but like I didn't feel the need to address with you, I know I want to plan dates I haven't been able to. Because again, in my head, I thought you understood, oh, he's at or above capacity. How can I expect him to be doing anything more? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which it just doesn't work the same. It works well at work. It doesn't work the same way at home. And I'm starting to understand that. But I do think a beautiful thing about that objective perspective is coming at each other with like, hey, this is something I'm needing that I'm noticing we're not having. Like, how can I help you? Which sometimes in these fights you did bring it that way, but the last few times you haven't. I'm not saying it's bad that you brought it up, just like you were, to your own point, expecting that if I cared enough, I would have done it.
Well, kind of, but also like even if you just still kind of, but also like it's not something that will get better if we just leave it till the next day or whatever, because I feel like in the season we're in, it would have just keep getting pushed off and I felt like a drift and I didn't want that to happen. And so it was something that needed to happen sooner rather than later.
Right. And so the way that I would hope we would consider that in the future is like what needs to fall out to make room for the thing that we both agree is more important. Because that's what I was communicating to you is like, I'm at or above capacity. If you want this thing, which I also want, I don't know what to drop. Because in my mind, it's either I drop work time, which I can't do. I drop childcare time, which impacts you negatively. I drop sleep time, which we already had at a low. I drop workout time, which I'm barely going right now because I'm helping to care for the kids. So to me, that's what I'm trying to say is I want us to get in a prioritization discussion with an assumed finite capacity. I don't want us to get in a you must not care because. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to make this you did that to me. I'm saying like that is a way that we can use the way that I've been trained at work to our advantage, where like I need to understand how it affects you to not do things and prioritize them. But I do need you to kind of objectively come back at me and meet me halfway a little bit as well and help me to either have the tools to do what you expect me to do or understand that something I'm not doing is higher priority than the things I'm choosing to do. And then we both have to accept the burden of whatever falls out the bottom. You know,
Yeah.
I only have 24 hours in a day. Like if something's going to ask for that 25th hour and we're going to prioritize something else in that day, it has to drop and we have to be okay with it dropping.
Yeah. Yeah. It would also be nice to have you bring that conversation up and say, like, I know I'm dropping the ball on this. How can you help me, like, prioritize? Because I think that was part of the problem for me, is that I didn't want to have to bring it up.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm like, I'm already planning these things. If you notice it, please say something.
I get that. And I think we got there in the last argument we had before I told you about this trip. Because I probably was a little too mean in the way I said it, but I was like, what do you want me to do? Like, what stops? You know, I'm not saying I don't care. I'm saying I do. I'm hearing you say that you want more action. I want to give you the more action, but I have no idea how to make room for it. That's what I was trying to say to you. So I agree. And I'm not trying to say that it should have been your job to bring it up in any way, shape, or form. But when that problem is recognized, regardless of who brings it up, I would love if it is a objective prioritization discussion as opposed to a assume partners trying to hurt me or not caring.
Yeah, and I don't have to end this. If you want to say one more thing after that, you can, but because I think we need to move on. But I think for me, I felt like I had brought it up several times, like, hey, I would really appreciate if you plan some dates. I said it nicely, multiple ways and multiple times with, like, I think intervals in between. And at that point, I didn't know what else to do because I had asked nicely and I had asked several times. And so I don't know.
But again, you're still hearing, if I'm not doing it, I don't care. And I did answer you every single time you brought it up. And I said, I understand. I'm trying. I understand. I will try. I understand it's hard right now. And like that to me is directly answering you with full honesty that I am in the drowning state you're in and I'm trying, but I don't know how to do it. Do you see what I mean?
I would have been more direct and said, I would like to try, because to me, then no results happened. So that tells me you weren't trying.
But you talked about all the threads that need to come together perfectly for one date to happen right now. I have records of messages I sent to the nanny to get availability. Sometimes that takes a while to get back. I looked at a ton of restaurants. I still have a bunch of alerts up on Resi and OpenTable and a bunch of other platforms for places I know you want to go that I want to take you. But like all of those things have to go together. So I was putting effort into every one of those avenues and it rarely was all coming together perfectly. So it was true that I was trying. It just wasn't like the final step of all of this came through and united on July 1st or whatever. And now we get to go do it. Like the few times that you saw a date happen that I had planned were those perfect storm.
Got it.
And I'm like, I can agree with you. I think we've already arrived at this, that I can elevate this in priority and drop something else out. And hopefully that will mean, okay, we actually get to go on more of the dates. I can plan more of them. I can prioritize you a little bit more. But I hear what you're saying, that you wanted me to be more direct. I'm telling you that I feel like I was. You know?
I think what I would have appreciated is just like a check-in of like, hey, I know I haven't done this, like acknowledging it. Because I know,
instead of just working in the dark and you not knowing. I understand that.
Yeah, just a little check-in. It is spring, and with spring comes lots of congestion, unfortunately, unless you're very, very lucky. And one of my favorite ways to kind of depuff my face and get out congestion is with a gua sha stone and or facial cups. And my favorite ones come from Primally Pure. You can use code
BGMAD
to grab yours for a discount. I have their regular jade gua sha stone, but I love their Bian stone, Bian, and it's black. It is heavier and it holds like coldness more. And then I love, love, love their facial cups. Try them out. Let me know what you think. I think you'll be hooked.
Yeah, they're great. BGMAD. Go do it.
Okay, so I didn't plan on this being like a relationships, marriage, parenting episode. It was going to be on toddlers, but maybe
I honestly think that was applicable, so don't feel bad about it.
I think it was applicable too. But let's get back to the meat of this episode. And so I had some questions that I was going to ask. I'll answer them too, but I'll ask you first. What do you know now that you would tell your pre-toddler parent self?
There's so many things. I don't know. Do you have one answer to that?
I think my top answer overall, just because I'm a preparer, and so like I would have prepared myself better with like, hey, I don't want to say keep your expectations low, but I feel like I was well prepared for like how hard the newborn stage would be. And so when it came to it, I was like, this is fine. This is easy. I thought we were in the flow, and I wasn't prepared when they turned 1, when they turned 2, the major shifts that would occur and how it would take a while to shake out. And so I think I would probably just say, I don't want to say keep your head down and your tail between your legs, but basically I would want to prepare myself in a way to where I wouldn't be surprised or overwhelmed in a bad way.
While I understand the sentiment, I doubt whether that is possible.
It was for newborn stage. I felt like it was easier than people said because I prepared
Right.
mentally for it.
But we've also said that that was an easier stage.
Because part of the reason being that I felt more prepared for it. I feel like they turned 2 and it just like slapped me in the face.
So how would you have prepared? Are you simply
No,
saying like
I'm
you
just-
wish you knew how chaotic it is?
I wish I had my expectations lower. Like I think people had said like once you get into the groove, things will change, but I didn't realize like how drastic it would be.
I hear you. I understand. Yeah, I understand. The reason I was challenging is because like I feel like people are pretty honest about the 2 and 3-year-olds being difficult. Not that our twins are difficult, but you know what I mean. Like that stage being a difficult stage, but you were saying something else. I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. Are you waiting for my answer?
Yeah.
I think I did not expect how much I would be ordered around by them. So like I knew that it was going to be difficult. It was still more difficult than I expected it to be. It still is difficult, even though it's beautiful and joyful. But like, you know, you have said this right now. We're in a dad phase. Dad has to do everything right now.
I'm not allowed to. No, Mom.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't matter if I'm around. So, you know, it's worse if I'm around, but like if a toy falls or a strawberry falls or something, or like they want water or whatever else, like it has to be dad that does it. And if it's not, they freak out. And it's not just an our twins thing. As far as I've talked to parents, like it's toddlers do this. You know, we've already talked in previous episodes how it's very difficult for them at this age to regulate themselves. And I think something that frequently dysregulates them or deregulates them is not having the right person do the right thing at the exact right time. And they're not sure how to reconcile it. And they have physical reactions, like they'll throw toys, they'll push things off the table. They have screaming reactions, you know? So it's like that I didn't expect is being, because you have to kind of accept those orders for the regulation to happen.
So you would tell yourself that you're going to be ordered around?
Yeah. Get ready to submit, you know?
Yeah. And
it doesn't mean, sorry, good.
No, you go.
It doesn't mean like, don't hold your parenting boundaries. That's not what I'm trying to say. Obviously, just because they're asking for something doesn't mean they get it. But like, in order to get through the day as quickly as we need to, like this is a quite literal example. In order for washing your hands after going to the bathroom not to take 15 minutes every time, the right parent sometimes does need to do the thing and just accept the responsibility. But like if they're asking for extra dessert or like, you know, a toy or a TV show or something that we don't play with before bed, like I'm not saying submit to those things because it's difficult, because you're going to run into those. Just within reason, you have to adhere to those requests.
Yeah. And I've heard it described as like, you know, toddlers are going through so many changes. They're learning so many things. They don't have control over a lot of things. And so they're learning that they don't have control kind of in the moment. And so by having these requests or demands from them, you know, it puts them in control. And so sometimes, like Nick said, we just, you know, yep, I'll let Papa put on your shoe today. Or I'll like, we're in a very much like do it myself phase too of like, you know, okay, I didn't mean to pick that up. I'm going to put it back on the ground and let you fold it back up. And then so you can pick it up and unfold it all together again. And so when we have time for that, we allow it. Sometimes we don't. And, you know, like an example would be getting into the car of like, yeah, I normally let you climb in, but I've been letting you try to climb in for 5 minutes and we're going to be late now. So I'm going to have to put you in. So it kind of goes back to our episode with Emma, a resident therapist, on like gentle parenting isn't what you think it is, because you probably would say that gentle parenting would, you know, let them do it and just make you be late for wherever you were going. But that's just not the case. You know, we allow them and say like, you know, I've let you do this, but now mommy has to do this because we have to go. Or, a big thing also that we talk about is, keeping them safe. I'm like, mommy has to help you because I'm keeping you safe. It's my job to keep you safe. Can you say safe? And they'll say it back to me. I'm like, I'm trying to help you. So yeah, that's a major thing. Definitely a good thing to clue yourself in on.
With that same point, I would say, and I am partially speaking to you here because I know this has made you frustrated. Do not take them wanting the other parent as an offense.
I
They are
know.
not trying to hurt you.
I know.
I know that you know right now, but you have had mornings where you're stressed out and you've come to me and said, like, why do I even try? They don't want me around at all. And I hope that you are starting to recognize that that does happen to me, even though we're in a dad phase, but it's a toddler thing. Like, we've had this conversation with other families we know, and they're in the opposite phase where it has to always be mom. And with the specific family I'm talking about, the mom is the one with the full-time job. So it's, similar, just switched. So like they're in the same phase, but dad can't do anything and can't help. And it feels like they don't want him around. So that's the piece of advice. Don't take offense to it.
I would say usually. Oh, so that's the piece of advice you would tell me.
No, it's mainly for people. Like, because it does suck to hear, like if Cypress says like, no, mama do it. Like, it does feel like he's quite literally saying, dad, go away. And I don't want you to help me, which is tough to hear. I'm not trying to not be sensitive, but that's the same advice I would give myself in that situation, or you or anyone else. Like, don't take offense to that. They're not trying to hurt you.
Usually when I am sad about something, there's something else going on with it. It's not just like them. So that's just like the catalyst to making me feel sad. Or like, I know whenever I was gone on my girls trip with my mom and my sister and I came back, they did not want me. I'm like, cool, I haven't seen you and now you don't want me. Is this what I get for like leaving you and going away and taking time to myself? So I said there's the mom guilt in there.
But that's the thought train I'm saying, don't let yourself go down. Like, when we got to your parents' house, right? The next morning we woke up, they were already awake. I said, hey, Cypress, good morning. How's it going? And he said, Buck, and ran directly by me and didn't want to have anything to do with me. Buck is his name for grandpa. So, that hurt. And I'm laughing about it now. But what I'm saying is, don't go down that mental path.
Or if you do go down the path, walk yourself right back out. That's all.
Sure. That's fair.
Okay. What's your favorite part of having our, I guess, almost 2.5-year-olds?
I would say the way that they're communicating, the way that they're expressing themselves, even their facial expressions, like they are becoming much more of people than babies, and they're interested in things and they're excited about things. And the way in which they are able to express that now is not only cute, but just like, it's so like them and raw and hopeful and innocent. And, it's just really cute and beautiful.
Yeah, I would say similarly. My answer is similar to that. And it kind of would probably be something else I'd remind myself, but I would learn it. I learned it in the newborn stage, is like just notice it and take it all in. So that I wish I had done more in the newborn phase, but I'm doing it more in the toddler phase, thankfully, because I learned that then. And so, if it means I'm just like looking at their hands or looking at their face or like making sure I kiss them before I leave them when they're napping, because I don't know how long I'll be able to like kiss them on the forehead and be in the room with them when they're sleeping, like that. You know, uh, I guess I like the word that Nanny Sarah uses, that they're just so pure right now. And, they, exactly what they're thinking and what's going on. And when they say, I love you, it melts your heart. And like Olive does this thing where she'll like hold your face in her hands and it's like the world's sweetest thing. And Cypress gives really good like snuggles. So yeah, I actually asked them the other day, this was from the book, The 5 Principles of Parenting by Dr. Lisa Pressman. She said in there, like, if you want to see like if what you're doing is clicking with your kids, or if you're treating them basically the way you think you're treating them, ask them what's the most important thing. No, sorry. You ask them what you like to do the most. So as a parent, it's like, hey, what is mommy's favorite thing, or what does mommy like to do the most? And see like what they say. And so like Cypress said cuddling, which I was like, great. And Olive said lay down, which I'm going to take as cuddling also. So I spend time with them. Yeah. So it's a good thing to ask.
Did part of you want to say, you're the reason I want to lay down so much?
No, I want to lay down with her. I think she was actually asking me to lay down with her when she was answering me. But yeah, just like the sweetness in the faces, and like I just want to like bottle up, and I take mental pictures all the time, just of the sweetness. Um, we kind of, I guess, already answered this, but what's your least favorite part?
I mean, my least favorite part is how like little things can trigger them, I think. Um, and to that same point, I have to kind of break them a little bit. Not break them, that sounds bad, but like we don't always have time for a 15-minute hand wash. I know that you're teaching yourself how to wash your hands, and that is important, but sometimes we have to go. Sometimes we have to go do something else. Sometimes dad has to go to work. Sometimes mom has to go to work. Like, I don't like having to.
Sometimes we're saving water for the animals in the ocean.
Right. That's Nanny's. Yeah. Thank you, Nanny Sarah. Yeah. I don't like having to do that. I feel like it puts both of us in a parenting posture that we're typically not in, of like, you will listen to me right now or else. It kind of has to be that way sometimes. And I don't like that because it makes them mad. And like I said, they're teaching themselves how to do something. So I feel like I'm punishing them for doing something good. And I don't
Yeah.
like that feeling.
Yeah, I would say my least favorite part is when I can't help them. Like when I'm
Yeah.
trying to help them and whether they can't verbalize it or if there's something beyond the surface that I can't help them, I just like helping people. And like I would literally do anything for you and I can't figure out what to do and you can't figure out how to communicate it to me. So I wish I could just help them more.
I'm not saying this to you. I'm saying this to people in general as an objective statement because I fully agree with what you just said. When you get in those moments where you can't help your kid and they're freaking out, for lack of a better term, and they don't know how to communicate it, remember just that. They don't know how to communicate what they want. I think the easy posture there, like I've thought this a lot, is just tell me what you want to do. Just tell me how I can help you. And it's easy to like sometimes say that, but get mad at them for not communicating. If you're getting to that point, remember that they can't find the words because they don't have them yet. They don't know how to express what they want. They may not even know what they want, and they're not able to regulate themselves because they're feeling this terrible and crazy and they can't, like they don't know what to do. So just don't get to that point. I mean, I hear parents rarely say like, just tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want. Like, and it sounds mad. And I can't imagine if I was somebody like them that just isn't able to communicate or isn't able to know what I need. If somebody's yelling at me for that, that would really suck. I'm not saying you do this. That's why I'm removing you from it.
Yeah. Just like we've talked about, it's our job as parents to be the calmest person in the room. And it's not always possible, especially if you've been giving like patience all day. And that was actually one of the things I was talking about with my friend about this, is that it's hard on a day when like, I'm doing all this stuff for them, not to get something in return, but like so that they're nice and um, have sensory stuff and, go to the park and like do an activity together. And then there's still problems. And again, I'm not doing it as in a transaction, but it feels like I should be able to, have a nice
Right.
evening when I do all those things. And so it's hard sometimes like I have to recalibrate my brain and be like, that's not why I did those things. And they're people, they're not robots. And just like I have a hard day, even if everything has gone right, they're having a hard day. And like you said, they don't know how to communicate some things. And so in the moment, some things that we do is like, we'll just take them outside for a change of scenery, get some sunshine on their face, or just get some air from outdoors on
Yeah.
their face. Maybe I see if they'll like put their hand under the water faucet. Water has always been a source of calm for us. Something Nanny Sarah does with them, which is not like new to her. Like she didn't create this, but it's like, asking them what they see or hear going around. Like, do you hear birds outside? So if you're outside or if you're in the kitchen and like Nick is cleaning the kitchen, like, do you hear the pans clanking? Things like that. Um, asking what they smell and things like that. There's like breathing exercises. So she'll have them like breathe like a dragon, which a lot of times it won't calm them down all the way, but they'll do that a couple times with us.
That still
And it's
helps.
fun. Yeah. So it doesn't always work, but it kind of gets you on the right track. Sometimes I was like, one of ours has kind of probably bigger emotions, and I'm like, they don't always want me, but then I'm like, okay, well, I'm here when you do want me, so they know like I'm not afraid of their feelings, and they'll typically come to me or decide they want me to come back to them when they know like I'm not mad at them, which I think is really helpful too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are also kind of questions that people have asked that I think relate to toddlerhood. Um, when did we change their bed and or a sleep sack? And so we changed them into their like toddler bed at 2 years old, they started climbing out of the bed around 22 months, and we changed the bed around 24 months just because they were hurting themselves. If your child is, fine in the bed and not climbing out, I would say leave them. It gets kind of tricky once you start to potty train, and if they're getting up at night to go to the bathroom or need something like that, we'll probably need to consider switching the bed. But other than that, I would probably leave it as is. We changed sleep sacks at that point too, just because if they were getting out of the bed, I wanted them to have like the best possible way to like stand up and not trip, even though they were climbing out of the beds with their sleep sacks on. But we just used the toddler beds of our Milk Street baby beds, kept our same Colgate Kids mattresses, of course, flipped onto the toddler side. My favorite sheets are by Mushy, crib sheets. Their blankets, I use their like regular baby blanket from Hannah Anderson that they've had since they were a baby. And then I got them toddler comforters and pillowcases from, I think it was Make Organics. And then their toddler pillow is from Parachute. Yeah.
What she means by hurting themselves is that they were starting to not only climb out of their cribs, but start to dive off of them or fall really heavily out of them. And there were times where they were like actually hurting themselves. So that's what she means.
Oh yeah, and another thing that we added that doesn't really help right now, unfortunately, but I still like that we have it, is the Hatch sound machine that also makes like noises and plays things.
Yeah.
We started that before we changed the bed, like to have the red light, green light, where they're not supposed to get out of bed when it turns red, and they can get out when it turns green. Doesn't always work, but I think it's a good habit to like kind of instill with them. There's like a wind down thing it does at night that we did. It's like animals sleeping now is what they call it, and it's kind of just like a cue to their brain. You can do a wake up one if you want, but we do really like having that. Oh, travel. We had our first flight with them since December, so about 4 months of not flying, which is actually kind of a lot for us. And we kind of purposely did that because we potty trained, and we didn't really want to have to deal with that while potty training. And the flight here, honestly, could have been worse. It could have been better, but I thought it was just fine. So flying with them, they're already kind of used to it. They like being on airplanes. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah. And kind of a note on potty training. We did a whole episode on that I'll link in the show notes for you. But we started potty training around 27 months, but kind of did a slow drip method from when they turned, maybe right before they turned 2. Is when we kind of started showing them the potty and things like that. But I would do it the same way. I think it went well. Yeah, I think this was a good conversation. I think we can definitely have another one later. Just because there's always something to talk about. Kids are always changing. They're always going through different growth spurts.
We're also not done with this phase. So yeah,
correct.
There's going to be more.
We'll check in with you later. But something that I have really liked that we have done twice now, just to kind of have the adult time while still parenting, is we had our nanny come and put them to bed for us. So we're still home. Literally, we just went in our room and shut the door and watched TV. And like we ate snacks and watched TV and talked, and she put them to bed. So literally she probably got there around 5 and left around 8. And so we literally had a night back that we haven't had in 6 months just because of the chaos. And so maybe you can have a friend who can come over. Maybe your parents can come over, whatever. Have a babysitter just come. You don't even have to leave the house. So you don't have to like, sometimes it's exhausting to get dressed up and go out and then eat, and it's expensive. So, eat at home or order in, whatever, and have someone come over and put them to bed. And then you have like more of your night back. And so we've done that once a month since February. I really like it.
Yeah, we started with Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't feel bad about that, I think, is the headline. And, you don't have to if you're asking like a family member or somebody for free to do it. But like if you're spending money to do it, to your point, with the nanny or a babysitter or something, that's still worthy money to spend. And you're probably spending less money there with food you're making or ordering at home than you would at a restaurant with the same nanny hours or a little bit more. So yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah, I think the whole point is that in this toddler phase, it's extremely important now more than ever in your parenthood to make sure you're taking time for you, just so that you can properly regulate and parent the best you possibly can. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
One thing I'm having trouble with, and I guess it's more prevalent with toddlers because they get into things, is just their clothes. Like, maybe it's because I like clothes too much, but even if I don't spend a lot on them, like, I don't want them to be ruined. And here are like 2 shirts here. I'm like, I don't know what I did wrong. I typically make them take their clothes off to eat and to like paint or crayon or anything like that. And even then, like, I have no idea what this was. This happened when they were with our nanny.
We
And I
can't see
can't.
it.
Oh,
Can you show
sorry.
it, please? Yeah, discoloration stain.
Well, I know, like, I guess the stain remover was on there for too long, but even then, it didn't take the stain out and did, like, discolor the shirt. So I haven't had this problem with my stain remover before, but I just don't know, what do you do? Do you take all their clothes off? I currently feel bad because, I don't want them to, like, think like, "Oh, dirty, like, I can't get anything dirty," and that's bad because it's not. Really, I just don't want the laundry to, like, have to work harder on stains, and in this case, sometimes I can't get them out. But we were at someone's house, and they're like, "Yeah, it's washable paint," and, like, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna try to be a cool mom and not, like, worry about it." And this wasn't the first time they wore it. This other shirt that I'm showing right now was the first time Olive wore it. But this shirt is just like a cute blue and white striped cotton shirt. I think it was from Walmart. And they said it was washable paint, and I can't get the blue out. Like, what do you do? Is there something you use? I like, please tell me. I know people love like the Miss Messy Mouth spray. Why are you laughing at me?
Just like the way you started this is, I don't know what I did wrong. And I think it's
Oh,
hilarious that hold on. I think it's hilarious that you have an expectation of yourself, that 2 Tasmanian devil type children that are sprinting around the house and getting into everything dirty that's possible, that you somehow have the power to stop the stains from happening or perfectly clean them up when they do. I find that to
well,
be hilarious.
I wish I didn't care so much. I think that's why, like, I'm taking this on myself. And like part of it is like, we don't have a washing machine in our home. And so I don't typically just go run a load for 175. We do have a laundry service that I really like, but I don't send stuff with stains there because they dry it. And I typically don't dry things with stains until I know they've come out. And so for this, like, I have no idea how to get this blue off this shirt. I guess now they just have 2 shirts that they can both wear where it doesn't matter what dirt gets on them because they're already ruined. But I wish I had one, like, an attitude adjustment sounds too much, but an attitude adjustment about it, like, nothing matters, I don't care. But
I'm not saying go all the way over there. I'm saying, like, it feels like you're at the other side of the spectrum way too far. Like,
well,
we have toddlers.
I also just don't want them to think like, one of them, I feel like I've already kind of messed with them because they want to take everything off when they eat. And they're like, it's going to get dirty. I'm like, it's okay. You can leave your underwear on.
And you've said, to your point, like, did I do this to them? Or they say,
Yeah.
like, no, I think it's me. I think I've asked them to take off most of their clothes when they eat because it's way easier that way.
Yeah, it's easier.
Yeah.
But I know, like, maybe our kids are just like messy, which I don't care. Be messy. This is like a time in your life where you can be messy. But I just don't know what to do. Like, should I buy like the full smocks? Is that what's best to do? What's your favorite brand of smock? I'm really just asking for advice. And really, I like my laundry detergent. I use Puracy, and then I also use their stain remover coupled with Molly's Suds. And typically it gets my stains out, but I wish I just didn't care and wonder if the stains will come out because I typically am trying to clean them day of. So yeah, if you can help me, I would love some help.
I hope that they can help you. Nobody's going to be able to help you. Sorry. I think it is a part of life right now that you need to accept a little bit. If you get some cool tips, that's great. But there will not be a day in toddler stage, in my opinion, where you're not going to have things that are dirty or stains you're not going to be able to get out. There's just not going to be.
And I'm not asking for those days. I'm just asking for, like, what do you use to get the stains out? Do they always get the stains out? And how can I care
Okay.
less except for, I guess, not dressing them in as cute of clothes as I currently do?
I hear it. I feel your pain.
I don't know.
It's not ridiculous. I'm not trying to tell you it's ridiculous.
I guess that's also what I'm looking for is like reassurance that, like, do you feel this way too?
I think it would be a reasonable expectation for adults. But I'm trying to get you to I'm not saying relax. I'm trying to get you to expect different results.
I would
from
love to
kids
relax.
who are pursuing paints, dyes, foods that stain, eating macaroni with their hands. Like,
And I guess with that, I'm saying, like, am I quote unquote bad for making them take their clothes off for that?
no, I do that too. I guess that would make
Okay.
me bad too. People put saran wrap on the front, like this press and seal stuff on the front of their kids and tear it off. That's a trick I've seen as well. I wouldn't consider those to be bad parents. They're probably dealing with the same mental stuff you are.
Yeah, we're here to work smarter, play harder.
Well, there it is. Good expression. Okay. Good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for growing for us. All right. Well, thank you for growing with us. And we can
Yep.
see. I'm struggling over here.
Just take a breath and say what you want to say.
And we can't wait to see you next week, our 1-year anniversary
Oh
for
my
BGMAD.
gosh.
Yeah. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Boy, girl, mom, and dad. Gotta wash those butts together. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.